rolling. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 Statewide Collaborative Prevention Convening. My name is Sarah Lacroix, and I'm a co-lead for the Strategies Technical Assistance Program with All for Kids, formerly the Children's Bureau of Southern California, and also the director for the Los Angeles County Child Abuse Prevention Councils. In partnership with the Child Abuse Prevention Center in Sacramento, Strategies continues to provide support to prevention collaboratives, child abuse prevention councils, family resource centers, and their networks with a focus on community pathways. We're thrilled to come together with all of you today to share best practices and collective wisdom for the betterment of the resilient children and families we all serve. Before I introduce my co-lead and fellow MC for today, I'd like to give a big thanks to the California Department of Social Services Office of Child Abuse Prevention for continuing to fund this innovative, important, and prevention-centered work. Your partnership and support are truly appreciated. Additionally, none of this would have been possible today without the hard work and collaborative nature of the 2025 Convening Planning Team. This year's team had over 25 members who began coming together in August of 2024 and was highly diverse, included youth and parents with lived expertise in family serving systems, child abuse prevention councils, family resource centers, state and county departments, and leads for comprehensive prevention teams, to name a few. Our group truly embodied the spirit and impact that exists when all voices sit at the table with the opportunity to be heard and their ideas implemented. And now I'd like to introduce Elisa Moore, my co-lead. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Elisa Moore, and I'm a Senior Program Manager with Strategies Technical Assistance located at the Child Abuse Prevention Center here in sunny Sacramento. We'd like to start by sharing a little bit about our work at Strategies Technical Assistance this morning. Strategies TA moves prevention forward in California by building connections and capacities, both locally and statewide. We provide facilitation, strategic planning, and network development support for collaborative groups to create lasting change to improve community and family well-being. So how do we do this? We build capacity for community pathways by facilitating collaborative efforts and strategic planning, hosting a Community Pathways webinar series, elevating community voice and sustaining collaboration, hosting communities of practice, and training on the standards of quality for family strengthening and support. And we build statewide connections through supporting the CalPrevent statewide networking platform, the Statewide Child Abuse Prevention Council Network, the California Family Resource Association, and this annual convening. So before we get started, we have some housekeeping items for today, more than just a few, but hopefully this will support you throughout the day. So the main session of our convening is hosted as a Zoom webinar. Due to the large size of our webinar, the Zoom chat is disabled as well as your camera and mic. However, during today's workshops, they'll be hosted on Zoom meetings where you'll be able to use your camera and mic to engage with presenters. Please use the Q&A feature located on the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen for content-related questions, and use the Whova chat on the right side of your screen for tech-related needs. A full list of today's workshops will be provided in the chat. Workshop presentation materials can be found under each workshop session under the Sessions tab. This event is being recorded and will be shared later. This slide deck and all other materials are located in the Resources tab under Documents on the Whova webpage and app. Attendees will have access to the materials on Whova 3 months after the event ends. Lastly, please remember to complete the evaluation survey at the end of each day to help our planning for next year. And so just to recap for navigating Whova, keep the browser with the Whova dashboard open throughout the event. This is how you'll access the main session and different workshop sessions. If you accidentally exit the browser with the Whova dashboard, rejoin by going to the Whova website and signing back in. During transitions to workshop sessions, you will leave this main Zoom webinar session by clicking on Agenda, then Sessions on the left side of the column of the Whova dashboard. Scroll down and you'll see a list of the sessions. Click on the workshop session you would like to join. Once again, for tech issues, enter your questions in the Whova chat under the Welcome session. And lastly, find documents shared during the event under the Resources tab. Thank you.
Wonderful, Elisa, thank you. So we'll now talk a little bit about our emotional support resources with clinicians available today and tomorrow. Similar to last year, in trying our best to remain a trauma-informed event, the planning team again decided to offer emotional support through 3 wonderful licensed clinicians, and you'll see them here: Jamie Bardacki, Melissa Corden, and Amy Kay. Amy Kay will be providing support in American Sign Language, and I just wanted to highlight, as a long-term partner, Amy's a member of the Advocacy Council for the Allies of Deaf Children and works for an organization in LA called 5 Acres. They provide specialty mental health services in English, Spanish, and has the only deaf services program in LA County. They provide therapeutic services in American Sign Language to deaf and hard of hearing children and have expanded mental health to include deaf adults to help families stay together and thrive. Lastly, we recognize many people here have been impacted by trauma and family violence, and we encourage you to call or text the number here for Beatrice for day 1, and that will connect you to one of our clinicians should any difficult feelings surface, at any point for you during the event. Next slide, please. All right, so the event objective for today. We've worked on this as the planning team to come together to strengthen collaboration and center prevention work in community-based approaches driven by the voices of community leaders, tribes, and caregivers and youth with lived expertise. I'll just put one more reminder out there for today. Please include any questions you have around the content in the Q&A box that's on your Zoom toolbar, and our team will try and answer all questions to support your learning for tomorrow as soon as we can. Thank you. Next slide. All right, so I won't fully read this slide, but I think what you'll see here is the agenda. We're in our welcome, and we'll soon hear from our other keynote and welcome speakers. We will have a lived expert panel, and you'll see there'll be 2 workshop sessions, a break, and lunch. All right, next slide, please. Who's in the room? So we'd really appreciate if you all could help us. We'd like to know more about who's in the room, and if you can please, I believe the poll should come up soon. And what you're gonna do is select the role and affiliation that makes the most sense for you in your work. I think the poll is naturally gonna pop up on your screen. So team, let me know if that's up, just because I can't quite see it in my view. Okay, we have a poll up just yet.
Will be located. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay, so which of the following would you all feel like most clearly describes your role or affinity group? Are you with a Child Abuse Prevention Council? Are you part of Child Welfare Services, PD, Behavioral Health or Mental Health, possibly Probation, a state agency or department, and you'll see some examples listed there, from an educational entity, tribe and or tribal organization? Are you part of a community-based organization or a parent or youth with lived expertise or other? If you're part of the other group, please tell us in the chat what it is, the group that you're a part of. So we'll give a minute or 2 for that data to come in. Oh, I see a lot of comments coming up from the chat. Great. I imagine there is an incredibly diverse group of people today, which is really exciting. Nice. Wow. Team, are we able to see the results coming in? We might need a little more time, huh?
It's pretty much slowing down. So if we can end the poll, go ahead and end it. Give folks just a few more seconds to do that.
Great, thank you. All right. So it looks like you'll kind of see our data coming in here. So child welfare services, not surprising, is our primary group, followed by community-based organizations. Amazing. Behavioral health, got good representation from our education partners. Fabulous, everyone. Thank you so much. All right, so I am now going to turn it over to Dr. Michelle Evans and Lydia Marquez from the planning team.
Good morning. I'm Lydia Marquez, and I'm joining you today from Yurok and Tule River Tribe ancestral lands. We wanted to acknowledge the labor and contributions of diverse communities that have shaped and continue to enrich the United States of America. Among those, we recognize the invaluable contributions of African Americans whose resilience, creativity, and labor have played a pivotal role in shaping the nation's history and identity. From the forced labor endured during slavery to the fight for civil rights and social justice, African Americans have tirelessly contributed to every aspect of American society. Their labor has been foundational in building the economic wealth, cultural vibrancy, and political landscape of this country. Furthermore, we honor the labor and contributions of Indigenous peoples, immigrants, women, and other marginalized communities whose work often goes unrecognized. From the construction of railroads to the cultivation of crops, from the innovation of technology to the enrichment of arts and culture, these diverse voices have been essential in shaping the fabric of America. As we reflect on the past, we commit to acknowledging the ongoing struggles for equality, justice, and fair labor practices, including those within domestic spheres. We recognize that systemic barriers persist and pledge to work towards a future where all individuals are valued, respected, and given equal opportunities to thrive. Let us honor the labor of those who come before us and strive for a more inclusive and equitable society where the contributions of every individual are celebrated and valued.
This year's planning team included more lived experts, youth, and diverse partners than ever before. For the past 6 months, the planning team has met at least twice a month to carefully curate content for this 2-day event, ensuring
All right, that's quite unusual. I don't know if it was odd on other people's end as well. This is we'll share this is our first time utilizing the Whova platform, and I think there is definitely a learning curve. So I just ask everyone to please bear with us, and we will definitely do our very best today.
Yes, sorry about that. I will continue. We recognize the challenges of crafting relevant and engaging content that reflects the diverse needs of our counties. We recognize the need to include the most impacted by the child welfare system, African American and tribal families, including those with lived expertise, to be equally and meaningfully involved in prevention work. This means having an active role in decision-making, co-creation, and implementation. As a planning team, we also recognize the need to put more effort into engaging disproportionately represented families and those with lived expertise at every stage of the planning process. We hope that local county prevention planning teams will also commit to engaging with disproportionately represented families and those with lived expertise in their prevention work. We encourage you to continue sharing feedback on how the statewide prevention collaborative convening planning team can improve and be more effective in this work. To each of you who played a role in shaping this event, thank you. Your selflessness, passion, connections, and firsthand experiences made it possible for us to bring so many incredible workshops and programs to life over these next 2 days. Your voices added depth to our conversations, helped us reach new communities, and made this gathering stronger. Just look at the over 1,000 people here. Your time, energy, and dedication mean the world to us. We truly couldn't do this without you. We are deeply grateful to each and every one of you for being here. Your participation and unwavering commitment to supporting children and families inspire us to keep doing the work. Your presence shows the power of a community that cares, and we are honored to share this journey with you. Thank you for making a difference.
Thank you both so much. That was really, really beautiful and very heartfelt. Really appreciate it. So we'll move on to CalPrevents. Thank you. CalPrevents is an online community for prevention professionals to connect, to share best practices, access resources and tools, and collaborate with their teams in private spaces. CalPrevents is funded by the Office of Child Abuse Prevention and administered by Strategies TA. We currently have 650 active members from across the state. Andrea Lewis is here to talk about the linkages space that she co-moderates.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Andrea Lewis. I am the CFPIC Linkages Program Associate. The CFPIC Linkages team launched our linkages space within the CalPrevents in May of 2024. Since the launch, we've extended 272 invites to our linkages coordinators and their teams. We are thrilled to see 161 members joining us, resulting in an impressive 59% conversion rate. The linkages space serves as a one-stop shop for our coordinators, building a community for real-time peer sharing and networking. This vital collaboration between child welfare and CalWorks is essential in promoting the safety of children while offering support to parents who are working towards self-sufficiency. Within the linkages space, members can engage in peer-to-peer conversations tracked through our hashtags. Our resource hub houses webinars, recorded sessions, and offers valuable information with external links to our CFPIC linkages website, where we offer toolkits and other resources, including training materials. We are excited to contribute to the statewide prevention efforts, and CalPrevents offers us the community building tools that we need to succeed. So thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Andrea is definitely a huge champion of CalPrevents, and it's just so great to have her at our monthly meetings and to be able to get to know her better through this work on CalPrevents. So thank you. All right, moving on. I'd like to introduce two of our valued planning partners and colleagues. Kathy Martinez is a retired Deputy Chief Probation Officer, now a consultant with Chief Probation Officers of California, and we are very lucky to have her as a very active member of our planning team throughout the year. Aliana Monti-Birhin is a former foster youth and recent graduate from Sonoma State University with a degree in criminology and criminal justice. She serves as a case supervisor for Sonoma County's court-appointed special advocate program and is a lead ambassador with the Child and Family Policy Institute. She is a CASA advocate, providing support for foster youth, navigating the complexities of the system. Lastly, she is a member of the National Foster Youth Institute's Congressional Leadership Academy, representing foster youth of California, promoting change to members of Congress at the White House.
Thank you so much, Elisa, for sharing more information about both Kathy and I. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 2025 Statewide Collaborative Prevention Convening. Go ahead, Kathy.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Alyssa and Allie. I'm Kathy Martinez. As Alyssa mentioned, I'm a consultant with the Chief Probation Officers of California, and we are excited to be here with you all today as we come together for 2 days of learning, collaboration, and action.
So this convening is about strengthening prevention efforts to our communities across California. And it wouldn't be possible, and I'm going to repeat this again, without the hard work and dedication of many people behind the scenes. So I'd love to take a moment to give a huge shout out to our planning committees and our work groups for making this event happen today.
Absolutely. The team has put in countless hours to bring together an incredible lineup of speakers, discussions, panels, and interactive sessions for you all. Over the next 2 days, we'll be diving into some critical conversations about the power of diverse partnerships, the value of lived expertise, and the role we each play in creating lasting change.
So prevention work is not just something we can do alone. It requires strong collaboration across systems, communities, and individuals with lived experiences. That's why this convening is so important. It's a space for us to connect, to share our knowledge, and to uplift the voices that are often missing in these conversations.
So we encourage you all to be fully present today and tomorrow, to engage with one another and take advantage of the opportunities to learn from the amazing speakers and experts who will be joining us today and tomorrow. The work you do in all your communities is so incredibly valuable, and together we can continue to build stronger, more effective prevention efforts across the state.
So thank you all for being here and the work that you do every single day. We can't wait to see the ideas, the partnerships, and the inspiration that comes out of this convening.
Absolutely. Thank you all for all that you're doing for your communities, for your youth and your families. And I will pass it over to Alyssa.
All right. Thank you both. It's been so great working with both of you this year and the year before. So really appreciating you. So I'm honored to introduce our first speaker, Kim Johnson. Ms. Johnson was appointed Secretary of the California Health and Human Services Agency in September 2024. Prior to her appointment as Secretary, Ms. Johnson was appointed Director of the California Department of Social Services by Governor Gavin Newsom, a position she held from July 2019 through August 2024. In this role, Ms. Johnson led a team of over 5,500 employees, the largest department in the California Health and Human Services Agency, serving over 7 million Californians. Ms. Johnson started with the California Department of Social Services in 2015 and had previously been appointed by Governor Jerry Brown to serve as Deputy Director of the Family Engagement and Empowerment Division, CalWorks, and Child Care Branch Chief and Child Care and Refugee Programs Branch Chief. Ms. Johnson has over 25 years of experience working in both community-based organizations and government-focused on advancing the health and well-being of individuals, families, and communities most in need of resources. The mission of the California Health and Human Services Agency is aligned with her purpose. Welcome, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. It is an honor to be with you. Thank you for the invitation to join you today. Glad to be in community with prevention partners and leaders across California who are coming together to strengthen collaboration and center prevention in community-based approaches. We are working together to achieve an integrated statewide system that supports families to provide safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments for their children and youth. As some of you know, prior to my recent appointment as Secretary, I served as the Director, as you just heard, for 5 years. During my time as Director, I was grateful to work in partnership with so many of you, making significant progress. As a result of investments in prevention, annual entries into foster care in California have continued to decrease. There were 17,444 entries between July 1 of 2023 and June 30 of 2024, which is a 44% reduction from the 31,396 children and youth that entered that same timeframe in 2015-16. On July 1, 2024, there were a total of 42,381 children and youth in out-of-home foster care placement. By comparison, there were 61,663 children and youth in out-of-care placement in 2015. Again, the progress is real. It is due to the intentional efforts that we are making in this space together. A key element of this transformation is the Federal Family First Prevention Services Act, as we know as FFPSA, which really allowed us to accelerate our preventative work together. The impact is evidenced by your work, 51 counties and 2 tribes that opted into the Family First Prevention Services Block Grant. developing comprehensive prevention plans that include strategies across the entire continuum of primary, secondary, and tertiary efforts. Of course, this administration, this governor, and the legislature also provided nearly $200 million to counties and state funding to support this work. And I'm pleased that we've been able to extend the time frame by which you can utilize those resources in communities. But I also want to just commend the local teams who have been making progress and implementing their plans and well-being. You'll hear more about examples of success and cross collaboration and innovative practices throughout these workshops and days. I especially want to commend the 33 counties and 2 tribes that have embraced the opportunity of implementing community pathways to move even further upstream with their prevention efforts. We hope that soon we'll see more of this approach across the state. Also, in addition to the progress we've made through the prevention grant, we've also, through this governor and legislature, made and expanded concrete supports for families to disrupt poverty. That includes things like the addition of voluntary home visiting in the CalWorks program, expanded access to childcare for foster families and more families, increased grant levels for CalWorks participants, expanded tax credits, and more. So again, we're doing things on many, many fronts to continue our preventative work. It also includes our system of care work, CalAIM, which is focused on addressing the social determinants of health, robust and unprecedented investments in children and youth behavioral health. We all need help sometimes. Some of us need more, and we're here to make sure we have a system that provides that. The integrated core practice model, the quality parenting initiative, and we have doubled down on our efforts to accelerate a kin-first culture. We still have work to do, and we still have work to do to keep families together whenever possible and address the disparities and disproportionality that continues. In particular, Native American and Black children are disproportionately impacted through many efforts in child welfare, as you know, 1.4 and 1.6 times more likely to enter the system compared to their white counterparts. This agency and the Department of Social Services are continuing to build a system that supports the communities we serve and to address these disparities and disproportionality. If you haven't been tracking the work of the mandated reporting to community supporting task force, there were recommendations that were brought forward to the Child Welfare Council that this agency and the Department of Social Services and others are working together to craft a very specific strategy to move forward towards a system shift from the focus on mandated reporting to community supporting. So please get engaged with that effort if you're not aware, and we will be taking additional actions in that space. Also want to invite you to the FFPSA Advisory Committee Community Pathway Framework, where you can also learn more about these efforts. I will tell you that the key to our success is continuing to lean in forward together in solutioning. So we're also, of course, continuing to prioritize tribal consultation in our practices, furthering and honoring tribal sovereignty, and we've made tremendous progress on implementing the Indian Child Welfare Act to fidelity. But there is a lot going on across the departments in Health and Human Services. So please engage in the voters passed Proposition 1 that occurred last year, where right now the Department of Public Health is creating prevention and early intervention strategies to really support and create more capacity in communities addressing the prevalence of mental health and substance use disorders. Also, of course, BH Connect at the Department of Healthcare Services continues and creates new child incentives for child welfare involved youth to also build on some of the work we're doing in rate reform and enhance opportunities and connections to buffer supports for adverse childhood experiences. There is much more. Those are just a few, but again, it is the partnership that is key, and you are going to hear more about both how we're looking at the HOPE framework and integrated core practice model and prevention work, and have some of these other efforts shape together and come together. I invite you to continue to utilize the California Health and Human Services Agency's guiding principles, right? This is really focused again on addressing inequities across our systems, actively listening and engaging with those with lived experience to shape everything we do, policy setting, program design, using data to drive action. Data is also people, and we should never forget that as we're looking at effectuating that data and creating continuous quality improvement processes. See the whole person. The silos have to continue to get broken down and really address the needs of whole people, children, families, and community. So I encourage you to do that. African proverb that continues to stick with me in this work is that we can go fast alone or further together. So please, tremendous appreciation to all of you for keeping on this work. We are making progress together, and there are many, many opportunities for us to do this work ahead going forward. It is now my pleasure to pass the next part of our programming to the keynote speaker, California Surgeon General, Dr. Diana Ramos. Dr. Ramos is California's lead spokesperson in efforts of public health and advancing the well-being of Californians. She is California's first Latina Surgeon General and holds a medical degree from the University of Southern California, a Master of Public Health from the University of California, Los Angeles, and a Master of Business Administration from the University of California, Irvine. Dr. Ramos has 30 years of experience in reproductive care and has held leadership positions locally and nationally, including as the Assistant Deputy Director of the California Department of Public Health. She will be talking about well-being through primordial prevention and setting the stage for how to work around adverse childhood experiencing, connecting to the HOPE framework and the guidance that will be provided by day 2 of the keynote speaker. Welcome, Dr. Ramos.
Thank you, Director Johnson, for that very kind introduction, and thank you for your inspirational words. They truly set the groundwork for everything that the group is going to be focusing on. And for those here online, I see there's over 957 people. Thank you for taking the time to help make California healthy, because we are coming from a diverse set of voices, experiences, culture, people. The beauty of California, our diversity, that together we are stronger. So thank you. I want to, and if I can have my first slide, please. I wanted to put together some new ideas, and some of those who have heard me speak, you're going to recognize that, wait, these are new slides. This is new information that we haven't really been hearing. So I pulled in, as you know, adverse childhood experiences. It's one of the areas of focus in my office, but I've taken it to the next level and really brought it back to where opportunities arise to improve not only the health of our children, but really the entire health of California. And I've had the pleasure and the honor of meeting a diversity of people in California, tribal nations, as well as reentry programs. And I've learned so much. So you're going to see some information here that hopefully will inspire you and will set the groundwork for a lot of the work that you're going to be focusing on. So I entitled my presentation, Advancing Community Wellbeing from the Womb and Beyond. And why the womb? Well, it starts at 0. It starts when a mom is pregnant, and really that impact plays a big role in the life of a child for the rest of their life. It sets their trajectory. Now, in doing some research and in collaborating with people from throughout not only the United States, but the world, I came across a really good video that I want to share with folks that highlights the womb and ACEs. So we can get started with that video. We'll go from there.
Brain development is much more than a story about biology. From the earliest years, relationships with others play a key role in shaping how our brain grows and develops. Early relationships, where there is abuse and neglect, have a long-term impact on children. A brain that has adapted to survive in a threatening or unpredictable world may not work so well in an ordinary environment. This can create what is called latent vulnerability, where early abusive or neglectful experiences with carers put children at greater risk of experiencing mental health problems in the future. For these children, compared to their peers, common experiences like moving to a new school can feel more daunting and stressful. New faces can appear threatening, while positive social cues can be missed. It can be harder to negotiate new social situations and learn to trust new people. Even fun experiences like joining a new sports team can be challenging. Too much focus on potential threat cues can mean missing out on positive social cues such as a playful nudge. Or it causes an overreaction, which leads to an increased risk of conflict and sometimes violence. These reactions can increase the likelihood of generating new stressful events. It's harder to deal with everyday challenges when you feel unconfident and anxious inside, and harder to build and maintain relationships. Over time, this can mean a child loses friends and the support of adults, and so misses out on opportunities to grow and develop. This social thinning can increase the risk of mental health problems in the future. Neuroscience research is beginning to shed new light on how vulnerability unfolds over a child's life. All children need care and stimulation from adults who value them and who show them attention and love. These experiences shape a child's brain development. When children face traumatic experiences like abuse and neglect, their brain adapts to help them cope. We know of changes in 3 different brain systems: the reward, memory, and threat systems. Experiences of domestic violence or physical abuse can lead to hypervigilance, where the brain reacts more to threat. This might help a child stay safe in an early adverse environment, but it can cause problems in more ordinary environments. Hypervigilance can best be understood as a pattern of adaptation rather than a sign of damage. Abuse and neglect can also mean a world where a child's basic needs for care and attention are not met. This can shape the brain's reward system, the part of the brain that helps us learn about positive aspects of our environment and motivates our behaviour. Over time, the brain's reward system can learn to respond differently to things like positive social cues. Neuroscience studies have also pointed to changes in the autobiographical memory system, our memory of everyday past experiences. Following trauma, negative memories appear to become more salient, which means they become more prominent than positive ones. And everyday memories can also become less detailed. This is a problem because we need to draw on past experiences to help us deal with new social situations. Neuroscience research is showing how childhood trauma can create latent vulnerability, increasing the risk of later mental health problems like anxiety and depression. This vulnerability is not just located in the child, but arises through their relationships. Helping children who have experienced trauma still requires ordinary boundaries and consequences, but it also requires us to step back and reflect and see behaviour that we find challenging in a different light. A child may simply be doing their best to survive now, with brain adaptations from the past. We know a child's brain has the capacity to continue to adapt. For this to happen, they need our help to build and maintain trusted relationships, manage everyday stresses, and prevent new ones from happening. We need to encourage them to try again and believe things can be different. This is far from an easy task and takes time. Science is helping reframe our understanding of childhood trauma. Seeing children's behaviour in a new light can mean we respond differently. But there is much still to learn. Working together, we can develop more effective approaches that promote resilience and recovery. We can help children build trusting relationships and create opportunities for their brains to adapt in new ways.
Thank you. I hope you agree with me, if we can get the next slide, that this was very valuable. I hadn't seen it quite presented this way. And I love the fact that really ACEs, the conversation started in the womb. Can we get the next slide, please? And I want to apologize for the lack of closed captioning. Again, this was from the UK, and the UK, they did not have the closed captioning option. So just to make folks aware. So reminding us, and we saw it in the video, but just the big three buckets of ACEs: abuse, neglect, and household challenges. And one of the areas that I want to focus on, opportunities for improvement, in particular, from the adult, from the mother's perspective, is the mental illness, the depression component. So critically important. Can I get the next slide, please? You all have heard and know that we here in California have the ACEs Aware program, where we can get reimbursed and compensated for screening for ACEs. And this is latest data that we have in California as to how many people have at least one ACE. And remember, ACE score is from 1 to 10. 4 or more is the toxic level. So 71.8% of folks have at least one ACE, and 20.1, or 1 in 5 people, have at least 4 or more ACEs. So that is the toxic level. Can we get the next slide? Now, what about our youth? So from 0 to 17-year-olds, one has 34%, and 4% have 4 or more ACEs. And I want to share this because it's important that we realize, and I know many of us are focusing on adverse childhood experiences and trauma, but we need to know where we're starting from so that we can know when we're improving and caring for not only our youth, but for adults, the trajectory of improvement and how much more we are moving the needle in addressing adverse childhood experiences and trauma. Can I get the next slide? So in terms of an economic impact on adverse childhood experiences, we know that here in California, it is a 1.5 trillion with a T. All right, now we're talking trillion cost in addressing all of the diverse medical conditions, the chronic medical conditions, and that really impact people who have those toxic levels of toxic stress. And this is lifelong investments, lifelong numbers. Next slide. We also know that, next slide, please. We also know that not everyone is impacted by adverse childhood experiences equally. And you can see here that sadly, American Indian, Alaska Native are the population, the group that has the highest number of 4 or more ACEs, that toxic level. So we have a lot of work to do. And I'm happy to report that we have this data, because oftentimes we are lacking data on the American Indian, Alaska Native, but here we have something to start working from, and more importantly, the red flag that we need to focus on our American Indian, Alaska Native colleagues and partners. Then you can see that it is mixed race that is second, followed by African American, Hispanic, and then the statewide. And you can see Asian have the lowest and white second to the lowest. But the opportunity is there, and the starting point for us to focus on people of color. Next slide. So we know, now we're going to get into a lot more new information. We know that when we address ACEs, when we look for ACEs, we actually have a lot of positive opportunities to improve health. And here is some information that has come out of that from Los Angeles County. And these are early findings highlighting the fact that healthcare access is occurring sooner, that there is an improvement in clinical outcomes, that there are the quality of primary care is improving, and we have increased identification for pediatric enhanced care management. So good things are happening when we are willing to address the trauma and care for those who have experienced. It's not always easy, and I will be the first one to admit it, but it's really important. And here is the proof that once we address it, we are improving the health of the people who are being impacted. So thank you for those of you who are screening for ACEs, for doing the work and for helping move the needle to improve care, healthcare lifelong. Next slide. So here are some more findings from Los Angeles County. ACEs screening is associated with increased preventive services, including early detection of behavioral health needs. And you can see here that there is more improvement in terms of, you know, all of the various preventive services when we screen for ACEs. So please, let's keep screening and let's not stop. You can see that there's increased physical activity counseling, as well as childhood immunizations, influenza vaccinations, and this is so critical. These are the preventive services that can keep our children healthy. Also, you can see autism screening, depression screening, Tdap vaccination, and a well visit. We're getting people in the system. We're helping prevent chronic disease by starting to ask about ACEs. Next slide, please. Now, but what about the world? And I mentioned that I had the chance to do some more research. So this is a meta-analysis that was published in JAMA Pediatrics. And this is this year, January 2025. And this is a meta-analysis of 65 studies worldwide, 18 countries. And here's the big takeaway. 15% of all of the people that they saw who had 4 or more ACEs had a history of foster care, were in the juvenile system, and were indigenous. Now, if we stop to think, the data that I shared, the indigenous population, the Native American, the Alaska Native fall into that category. 42% of the meta-analysis had 0 ACEs. But I think the thing to realize is that we are not alone in the US. We are not different. We unfortunately fall right into the category of what is happening worldwide. Next slide. And I have to remind us that when we are talking about the big opportunity for adverse childhood experiences, it is in the prevention of disease. This is truly that upstream approach. If we can prevent depressive disorders by 44% by addressing adverse childhood experiences, COPD by 27%, asthma by 24%, the list goes on. We can prevent disease. We talk about the healthcare shortage, the inability to have enough providers. Wouldn't it be beautiful if we didn't need those services for acute care and could focus on prevention instead? Next slide, please. And for those of you who want to see the big picture, well, this is it. And I had to share it. And I share it because when I was talking to a group of researchers, they said, this is the best slide. We see the big picture. We see how addressing childhood trauma not only impacts the molecular level, the brain development, but really we can understand the entire dysregulation. So whoever wants to pull this article, please pull it, because this is truly the mind map of where all of the pieces that can go wrong in the whole trajectory of trauma come into play. Next slide. So the other opportunities to remember that in addressing ACEs, we improve health risk behaviors and socioeconomic challenges. Smoking decreases 33%, heavy drinking 24%, unemployment is less, it decreases 15%, and improvement in education as well. So again, adverse childhood experiences is that upstream solution. Next slide. And in terms of the long-term impacts overall, remember from the video and from what I've shared that perceptions of reality could be altered. And when I saw this and saw the video, I thought, wow, I hadn't realized that a person's interpretation really can be modified by the adverse childhood experiences. And I started to think back on my life and my ACEs. And I thought, wow, maybe that's why I have trouble with XYZ. So it's important to bring that perspective into mind. And our brains are wired to expect danger. And again, I didn't make that connection. But instead of expecting positive, you start to expect danger. And recognizing that is the first step to changing. Triggers the fight or fright response. We know that creates relationship problems. Yes. Takes away a sense of security, increases stress hormones flowing through our body. And that increases our risk for a lot of other chronic diseases, creates a sense of helplessness, and results in serious behavior problems. So, just reminding us, next slide. And again, highlighting the fact about the differences that socio-demographic groups really are impacted by ACEs differently, highlighting that women, low income, LGBTQ+, Black, Latinx, Indigenous, and other people of color, you saw the data have a higher 4 or more ACEs disproportionately impact, and discrimination experienced by some groups, including racism, is also a toxic risk factor for stress. Next slide. Now, this is another slide that is new and really want to bring to light the intergenerational behaviors of crime and incarceration. So when I was speaking to the reentry group, I came across this in my research and looked to see, wow, if somebody has, as a child, physical abuse, the emotional response could be anger. And then the reactive could be physical aggression, coping pattern is fighting with the peers. And then as an adult, the criminal activity could be assault. They mapped out what the common, from the beginning trauma to the criminal activity. So when I shared this with the reentry groups, they said, wow, thank you so much for making me aware that what happened as a child really did impact the type of crime that I committed. So this is a full report. So whoever wants to look at it, you can pull that report. And this one was also done in the UK. So the UK has done a lot of research. Now, that's not to say, and I have to defend what we're doing here in California. That's not to say that we don't have that data. The point is that they published it and we need to publish it. So I always encourage those who are doing the research, have the data, please publish it so that we can share it not only in California, but worldwide. Next slide. So bringing to light and reminding us that it's not just ACEs, not just what happens in the household, but it's the environment and it's our community, because it's all three areas that build into our health, that build into our development and who we are. Next slide, please. Again, highlighting 80% of health happens outside of the healthcare setting. And the next slide, please. And one of those recent realities was the fires that just happened here in Los Angeles, in Pasadena, in Altadena, as well as in Pacific Palisades. And we oftentimes think, well, we're all immune, right? We don't think about that. We oftentimes just think about earthquakes, but it's not just earthquakes. It is fires, it is flooding. And as a result of that, we put together a Facebook Live with Aloe Black, who is a Grammy nominated singer-songwriter. And he has been truly a great partner to our office and to California. He's amazing. And Aloe and I were in a meeting and he was sharing how his children's school got burned down in Altadena. And that's a lot of trauma. So we forget that that is trauma, and that's the environmental piece that really plays a role. And he said, my kids are afraid to go back to school. They smell the smoke. And we pulled together Aloe Black, as well as Dr. Brian Allman, who is one of the initial ACEs researchers, along with Dr. Vincent Filletti down in San Diego. Lillian Petzel, who was the principal and president of Notre Dame Academy. So she had West LA students and our own Dr. Michelle Evans. So thank you, Dr. Evans, for being a part of that, our expert. But I encourage you to go and see that. Next slide. Other resources that we have is our Safe Spaces training for educators, online, 3 age groups, 2 hours, and it is self-paced, again, recognizing ACEs and how it can manifest in students. And more importantly, what can you do as somebody in the educational setting? Next slide, please. And then we cannot forget the positive childhood experiences. That is what can buffer adversity. And here's a list of different types of positive childhood experiences. And the more positive childhood experiences there are, it can help mitigate negative effects as an adult. And we saw that in the video. Next slide, please. The one thing I want to highlight, we talked about how the Native American and the American Indian population had the highest number of ACEs, the 4+. I want to highlight the fact that the American Indian Alaska Native population have the highest number of positive childhood experiences, 35.6%. They have the highest number. The group with the lowest is Hispanic. So we need to learn from the American Indians what are the activities that are working so well so that we can replicate them in the other groups. Next slide. Now, I also want to highlight what is happening through the governor's Precision Medicine Task Force. And the governor's Precision Medicine Task Force has funded work on adverse childhood experiences. And here at UC Irvine at the Conti Center, I had the pleasure of speaking to them last week. And I want to highlight the work that they're doing because they are using precision medicine to address adverse childhood experiences. But can I have the next slide, please? But more importantly, they've combined the ACEs screening with the what they have called a quick score. So 5 questions. So in doing both of those together, they can predict at a higher level who is going to be having depression, who is at a higher risk for depression. And they're looking also to pinpoint the resiliency score. So who has the potential to have a higher resiliency score. But I want to share the great work that is happening in California, again, with precision medicine. Next slide. And the one thing they came away with is routine. And they said routine is so critically important to help build resilience. And the easiest thing to do is just to have dinner together. Next slide. Other resources that we have out of my office is the Live Beyond campaigns. Many of you have participated in that, in creating the resources, the information. Please remember that this is available as a resource, not only for our youth, but for the parents and the providers. Next slide. And again, just highlighting that we need to continue the work that we're doing with ACEs screening to improve the overall preventive services that have make a difference in behavioral health. Next slide. QR code, for those of you who want to be ACEs aware trained, please 2 hours and you get 2 continuing medical education credits. Next slide. And moving into now in pregnancy. So this is Kaiser Permanente Northern California's ACEs questionnaire for the people who go through their prenatal care program. Next slide. And remembering and reminding us that it truly is critically important to address the age 0 in utero, in pregnancy, because it is during that time that you've got the highest cell duplication, cell production, and really it impacts that toxic stress can cause chronic dysregulation that can have lifelong implications beyond in utero. Next slide. And when the baby is born, the impact of maternal ACEs, the higher the ACEs score they were associated with NICU admission and psychosocial stress during pregnancy. So again, we talk about preterm births, NICU admissions. maybe we should really all as a state be focusing on ACEs in pregnancy so we can address that stress, that trauma, and help the moms. Next slide. And the overall big picture on there is an impact on depression and the depression, anxiety, and disorders in the mom really impact that lifelong trajectory of the child from not going to their prenatal care or late prenatal care, not taking care of themselves. And that increases the risk for preterm birth, medical complications. And then as the baby is born, there could be delays in developmental milestones, learning, and then relationships, because there's poor bonding with a mom who has mental health conditions. The child lifelong has a harder time with relationships and bonding. Next slide. And this is from, again, the UK, Dr. Alan McGregor. Just the big picture. If we want to stop trauma, we got to look at mental health in the mom, because that could be the trauma that the child is born into and the trauma that we can actually all work towards improving. Next slide. And looking at the national, next slide, please. This is just a quick QR code and flyer for one before, please. Just highlighting things that can be done by others. Oh, one more back. One more back. Right there. Okay. By others, because sometimes somebody who has a mental health crisis, mental health issues, doesn't recognize it, but there are people around her, and these are just tips for them. Look for changes in behavior, listen for harmful words, provide words of support, and direct to places of support and care. Next slide. And then just highlighting the fact that 1 in 5 adults experiences mental illness each year, and really serious mental illness is elevated in 1 in 25. The big takeaway, the one thing to remember, 50% of all lifetime mental illness begins by age 14, 50%, and 75% by age 24. Next slide. And the role of mental health is really important nationally when we look at the data, because 23% of mental health conditions, including suicide and overdose, are the most common cause of pregnancy-related death. So critically important. Again, so if this is the mom and the mom dies, what is the impact on the baby? Now, what is that trauma, right? So it's a big ripple effect, and it's all connected. Next slide. So with that in mind, we are working to reduce maternal mortality. We have committed to do that, to decrease it 50% by December 2026. And this is one resource that we have developed. It's a validated 8-question quiz that is meant to reduce maternal mortality by having a conversation starter that somebody can answer these 8 questions. And the hope is that if they are at higher risk for complications or chronic disease that can complicate a pregnancy, they will go to their healthcare provider. And this is meant to be outside of the healthcare setting in the community. And whoever takes this the bottom resources can be used by anybody. It can be changed. We just ask that the 8 questions and the tips and the summary not be changed, but everything else can be modified. It's an open source document, so please make it your own and help us spread the word. Next slide. And the other resource I want to remind folks is California's CalHope Warm Line. CalHope is an amazing resource that has provided a lot of not only information, but support for mental health issues. So please remember that we have this as a resource. Next slide. Oh, wrong way. And then again, the mental health apps that we have available, Bright Life Kids for parents, and then Soluna for the youth themselves. Wonderful resources that have been developed as part of, the behavioral health revolution, really, and the investment in improving the behavioral health of Californians. Next slide. So with that, thank you so much for the opportunity to share some new insights and opportunities for us to continue the work that we have all been doing and validating the work that you're doing. Please continue on and reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help support you, promote the work that you're doing. And for those of you who are doing research, publish so that we can share the amazing work that is being done in California. Thank you.
Wow, incredible. Thank you, Dr. Ramos, so much for that wonderful presentation. We truly appreciate your commitment to prevention and for being here today. Thank you. I'd now like to move us into our next segment, which is going to be hearing from our lived expert panel. Thank you. Our panelists have been working diligently to bring information and heartfelt content with the hope of assisting all county prevention teams with more effective and authentic engagement. And next slide. So something I'd like to just read before we get started, and this was devised by the panel and others in the planning team. For our panel today, we acknowledge that family-serving organizations and professionals frequently ask lived experts to be involved in systems change work. Sometimes we ask them to share their stories as a way to legitimize their experiences. The Community and Tribal Engagement Subcommittee believes that the lived experts joining us today have validated their experiences simply through their presence. They are here to share how the system could have responded in a way that supported their family rather than harmed them. And now I'd like to pass to my co-MC Elisa, who will introduce our panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So I'm very happy to introduce my colleague and our moderator for today's panel, Roger De Leon Jr. Roger is a proud father and a man of deep faith. Roger is the founder and CEO of In His Service. He has his own consulting firm working mostly with child welfare departments across the state. He is an LCC minister, a birth father with lived experience, and was a co-chair on the mandated reporting to community supporting task force. He is a family advocate and trainer and parent partner. Welcome, Roger.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. Thank you for that introduction. And now I would like to introduce the panelists today who I have had the privilege of working with. These two young ladies are dynamic. And so we're going to begin with Aliana Montevirgen. And she's a former foster youth from Solano County and recent graduate from Sonoma State University with a degree in criminology and criminal justice. She holds many titles in the work she does, serving as a case supervisor for CASA of Sonoma County, and is also a lead ambassador for child and family policies to implementing change for over 4 different counties. Alongside her 2 jobs, she is also a CASA advocate for a foster youth, providing support, navigating the complexities of the system, and is a member of the MFYI's Congressional Leadership Academy, representing foster youth of California, promoting change to members of Congress at the White House. And she will be the voice of our youth today. And next, we also have another wonderful individual. Nancy Perez is a dedicated youth engagement project ambassador in St. Luis Obispo County, passionately advocating for improvements in the child welfare system. As a former foster youth and a parent with lived experience, Nancy shares her voice and experience to drive positive change. She actively participates in various meetings, including YEP, Quality Parenting Initiative, and Youth Advisory Board meetings, showcasing her commitment to the cause. And she will be the voice of the parent with lived experience. And so we welcome our panelists here, wonderful individuals. And as was shared by Sarah, when we started to develop this, we really wanted to go a little bit further than we usually do. And that was to share that we are not just our story, but the expertise that we carry along with us. And so I've been privileged to be able to work alongside both of these young ladies in developing this panel. And so we're gonna go into the questions, right? Because we can't wait to hear from them and the wonderful voices that they're going to share. And so with that, we're going to go to the first question. And so I will begin with Ali, if that's okay. And so Ali, what helped you feel safe and supported while in foster care or as a parent navigating the child welfare system? And what made you feel unheard or overlooked?
Yeah, thank you so much, Roger. So I'll go ahead and share my thoughts about this question. So one thing that made a significant difference for me as a foster youth was being placed in kinship care. So kinship guardianship is when you're placed with a relative during your time in the foster care system. So this allowed me to stay connected with family, which made me feel supported and safe. More specifically, I was fortunate enough to live with my two siblings and my maternal grandfather during my period of time in the foster care system. Even though I wasn't living with my biological mother, whom my siblings and I were separated from, my grandfather and my siblings reassured me that I wasn't alone during this traumatic time of our lives, not just mine. My grandfather played a huge role in essentially just making me feel supported. He was consistent in checking in with us, making sure that he was showing genuine love and care. That consistency and love gave me a sense of stability when everything in my life felt very uncertain. I want to point out that with uncertainty and instability, with placement changes, relationships that I thought I could depend on, school changes, my life felt like a roller coaster. Having that familiar support system from my family and my relatives made a huge difference for me. So I want to answer the second part of this question on the screen. What made you feel unheard or overlooked? So, however, despite the positives with kinship care, I also felt like there was moments where I felt overlooked and unheard within the system. There were times where I feel like my emotions and my opinions weren't fully acknowledged. Decisions about my future often felt that they were being made without truly considering my voice or what was best for me and my siblings. I don't feel like there was much efforts to ensure that I tried therapy, and I felt that during my time in the system, it felt that they just wanted to push or close out our case without acknowledging the efforts to seriously ensure that we were all okay before our case dismissal. So even with having supportive support through kinship care through my grandfather, there were professionals in the system who didn't always take the time to ask me how I was feeling or what I needed. Instead, it felt that my experiences were being generalized rather than understood. That feeling of being unheard can feel very incredibly frustrating when these decisions are impacting my life. So looking back, I can say that having family support was a major factor in helping me feel safe, but it's clear that the child welfare system still has things that they need to work on, which is truly listening to the youth you guys serve. So every child that enters the foster care system has an experience that is unique. Everyone doesn't have the same story. And it's important that those who support youth who are currently going through the foster care system take the time to listen and to understand what each youth need. So thank you so much, Roger.
Thank you, Ali. Such a wonderful response. And yeah, you bring up a very important point, right? Family is important for that support. And so, it's amazing. I can't speak to the lived experience of a youth. My daughter was the one who navigated, and I couldn't even imagine what that felt like. But thank you, Ali, for that perspective. So with that, we're gonna turn to Nancy now for the same question, right? And so Nancy, What helped you feel safe and supported while in foster care or as a parent navigating the child welfare system? And what made you feel unheard or overlooked?
Hi, good morning, everyone. For me, mine would be, I feel like, sorry, I'm kind of nervous.
It's okay. Take your time. You're okay.
It was just, people who had, the same goals, as me, which is, having your child be removed from your care and not being able to see him, and then having just, being told of when you get to see him, how many hours you get to see him when, and supervised. And I feel like, for me was, my son was placed with a family member, and so I felt safe of where he was at. Um, you know, even though he wasn't with me at the time, I still knew that he was taken care of, even when I wasn't there. And so, like, for me, um I just remember thinking back and being afraid of asking questions and asking um just the help, the help that I needed just to get myself right, and everything that I needed to do in order to get him back in my care, and so I feel like something that I reflect back was from when one of my therapists said to me, how are you going to change if you don't know what they want you to change? And I always think back of that question and that thought that she mentioned, because uh, it was just really it just really got me out of my comfort zone and allowed me to speak up and use my voice and ask questions, even the uncomfortable ones, even the ones I didn't want to ask, and so I feel like at times, like, it was some things weren't going my way, or the social workers were doing other things, and I feel like I knew that I had a support system, I just needed to find it. And as long as I put myself in positive people and people who, had the same goals as me, I knew that I was gonna be okay. So I feel like that was my biggest one, just having the support. And then how I'll answer the second part, how it made me feel uncomfortable and overlooked. I feel like I had to be, at times I felt like I had to be someone else, or like just be and asking other things that I wasn't, um still to this day I sometimes feel like that, or um just not knowing what to answer and what to ask, or what to appropriate. So yeah, I just know that that's just what I went through. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for sharing it. Yeah, um, sometimes, it's finding that one individual or the individuals within the agencies that help you to navigate. And so what I hear you saying is it was a therapist that gave you this how would I put it? A way of looking at things to be able to help you navigate that. And I can relate to that as well. I know that for myself, just thinking about what you're sharing, I didn't get the support within the agency. I got it outside of the agency. I got it from actually my church, my church family. And so and I bring that up because it's important to think about where families do get their support, right? Whether it's the youth and or the parents. And then on top of that, the way that you felt and heard, I totally understand that too, where you're trying to figure things out and it's not coming clear. And there's this idea that we have this understanding of the way that the system works. And honestly, I didn't understand it until I became part of it. And I have an appreciation to understand everything with, my colleagues as, social workers and all that. At the same time, it was still rough at the time. And so that's one thing I would throw out there is, let us stop to listen to those who are in our care or who are navigating the system to find out what it is that's needed to be able to provide that support and be able to help alleviate a lot of these disconnections or the feelings of unheard. So with that, thank you both for answering that. Right. So did you want to add anything, Ellie? You're good. You want to go to the next question?
Yeah, let's go to the next question.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure. All right, so we can put up on the screen, the next question. Actually, it's right there in the chat for us. So the question number 2, what resources, programs, or attitudes were most helpful in your journey toward reunification or resolution? So this time, I think we're going to go with Nancy, if that's okay. If you don't mind answering that question first, Nancy.
Yeah, of course. Some of the programs for me were, just getting involved. Church was the main one for me as well in my story, in my journey. And being involved in different support groups and different people that I trusted, I didn't know a lot of people, but through this journey, I got to meet, like I said before, just families who are going through the same thing, and not only through the foster care system, but like as a parent as well, and I got better at listening and not responding. I got better at just listening to what they had to say, and just being there. At the end of the day, most of us had the same goal, of getting our kids back, of finding housing, of getting a job, getting transportation, a car, just the normal things that most of us have or are conquering, and so I feel like for all of us just to be, together in that aspect, was really heartwarming just for them to do that, and being there with me. I know for sure that, none of it would have happened if, I just would have and should have, but it's okay. I feel like life throws stuff in your path that just reflect on you, and just make you stronger who you are, like it did for me. I feel like one of the things that I try my best to not do is, look down on my mistakes, and surround myself with positive people and positive um, friendships. Not someone who will bring me down, if I made a mistake or someone, So I just feel like my attitude definitely has changed in both perspectives, and towards my reunification, it was, having that goal of, being full-time mom and being, at the time I was a full-time student and a full-time employee. So I was like 3 different hats, 4 different hats, and many of us do that. And so like I feel like my resolution towards that was just, doing the best that I could. Sometimes things didn't go my way, which was okay. Sometimes things did, which, I worked for. So I just had to just stay in my lane and just not compare myself, So I feel like being there, and being part of something, it was just impactful for me. I feel like there's just so many things I want to share, but that's just one of the biggest things for me was just having people in my corner and having people I could talk to that they could relate to what I'm going through. So that was mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. You shared a lot of wonderful information, and I'm sure that you can continue to go on, and we support that. We genuinely are open to as much as you can share with everyone. Because I think it's important that we're having these conversations. You know, myself as a father, you know, a lived experience, it was different, especially for resources. I didn't realize it was a thing until I came into child welfare, and now I get to be a resource, and I get to be, you know, a part of programs, and I get to bring these out. And of course, as a trainer, I get to share about the importance of attitudes, right? Because as we share, you know, in the training field, attitude over skill. Because if our attitude is not right as we're giving service, then parents and youth are not going to hear us. And so thank you for sharing that. Now we're going to turn it over to Ali to share through your perspective. So what resources, programs, or attitudes were most helpful in your journey toward reunification or resolution?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I'm going to highlight 3 that came to mind for me to just look back at my time in the foster care system. And towards the end, I'm going to share with you guys one resource that was so beneficial for me outside of the foster care system as a former foster youth. So during my time in the foster care system, one of the most meaningful impacts of participating in a program, or just a program, is therapeutic visitations. And I'm going to highlight this organization because I still remember it to this day. It was through Aldea in Solano County. So while this wasn't necessarily a formal resource or program, it was incredibly important to me because it allowed me to visit my mom despite being separated from her. These visits gave me something to look forward to during my time in the foster care system and a sense of hope for possible reunification. Most importantly, they provided me an opportunity to maintain that connection with her, which was very important to me and my own emotional well-being at that time. I also considered therapy while in care, as I knew it was a helpful tool for me to process what I was going through. But however, at that time, I was ineligible due to my medical coverage, and there was no other therapy alternatives that was given to me. So at that time, I also want to share, I was not ready to do talk therapy. So being in kinship care, I found a different outlet. So instead, I decided to do karate at that time. And I'm going to share that with you guys because sometimes youth are just not ready to talk about their experiences. It's way too soon. So understand that this was an outlet for me. And when a youth expresses to you guys that they're interested in doing some type of sport, this is beneficial for us foster youth. So this became a personal tool for me to manage my anger and my frustrations. Karate helped me release the emotions I was going through in the foster care system in a healthy and a productive way. And it became an essential tool for my healing process. It also taught me discipline and self-control, and it also gave me a space to focus on myself and my growth. So both therapeutic visitations and doing karate, kind of like a therapy alternative, played a major role for me in shaping my perspectives and helping me maintain hope and positive attitudes during my time in care. So my last resource that I want to share with you guys outside of my time in the foster care system is that I want to highlight the college programs that support foster youth while they're in college. So I am incredibly grateful to have been a part of Sonoma State University's Seawolf Scholars Program. As a former foster youth, this program provided me with opportunities, that financial support, and a sense of belonging that allowed me to thrive in post-secondary education. This program, I had access to academic support, mentorships, financial aid, all in which helped me stay on track to graduate with my bachelor's degree. Without that CWO Scholars Program, I wouldn't have been able to prioritize my education the way that I did. I had my advisor always check up on me, was very consistent with just making sure that I'm on track. And I truly don't know what I would have done. I don't think I would have been able to graduate with that program as my support system. So looking back, I realized how important it is to have these resources and supportive programs available for foster youth, not just while in care, but also during transitioning into adulthood. Whether this is therapeutic visitations, therapy, karate, or college support programs, each of these things have played a major role in my journey inside and outside of the foster care system. So thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Once again, a lot of good points. You got a lot of good resources, right? I like the karate one, right? It's something that's outside of the box, right? And I know that a lot of counties are transitioning into different things like that. I've heard even one where a parent was doing what was it? The gym with their kiddos. And so it was something that was interesting. It was something that was different, and it actually worked. And as I shared earlier, sometimes it's looking outside the box. What is it that is supportive? I shared about my church, right? We talk about religion, not to press it on anyone, but just as an opportunity and option as we're looking at resources and all. And as I shared, I became a resource as a parent partner, but some of the resources that I saw that I was able to work with parents with and their families was the family resource centers, right? Those local resource centers that do carry a lot of different resources to help out. So this is something that we want to throw out there just so that way we think about things to be able to be accommodating. And of course, once again, listening to our families, listening to the youth and giving them the opportunity to share. And of course, listening to the parents, giving them the opportunity to share and give us ideas as we go forward. I know I did a lot of that as well as a parent partner. So, all right. So with that, we're going to go into our third question here. And so, as it's getting pulled on the screen here, what advice would you give service providers to help children and families in care feel more empowered and valued? Now, I'm going to open it up. Nancy, Ali, whoever would like to go first, since this is our third question, I'll open it up to you both.
I guess I'll go ahead and start the conversation. So one thing or one of the most important things that service providers, professionals that are supporting foster youth can do is prioritize consistency and communication when working with foster youth. I get it. I completely understand that many professionals in this field have heavy caseloads. There's a lot going on. But for a child going through constant uncertainty and instability, even small efforts towards consistency can make that huge impact for us foster youth. Having those regular check-ins, even just to provide an update, can help foster youth feel seen, heard, and supported. Many times we're left wondering what's happening with our case, where we'll be living, or if we'll have accesses to the resources that we need. A simple check-in, even if there's no major updates, help us foster youth feel like they matter. Another major piece of advice is following through on what your youth is asking you for. Whether this is mental health services, housing support, education resources, these are not just an optional request. These are essential for us foster youth because we depend on you. The most, we depend on you guys the most when we're in care. And when a request is ignored, forgotten, or left on the back burner, it can feel like our needs don't matter. If something is impossible, we would rather have an explanation than to be just left without an answer. So being transparent about what can or cannot be done will help build that trust and that relationship with the youth that you guys serve. So trust is something that us foster youth struggle with because many of us have experienced those broken promises, those unexpected moves, and again, uncertainty about our future. So one of the best ways service providers can build trust is by being honest and being just upfront. If a request can't be fulfilled right away, maybe explain why or offer alternative solutions can go such a tremendous long way. Leaving a youth without an answer, however, can feel like we're being abandoned all over again. Remember, this is the time where we're feeling mistrusted. We're going through such a traumatic time. It's not easy for us. So at the end of the day, service providers play a huge role for us in the lives of a foster youth that is navigating those complexities in the system. So focus more on consistency, that communication, your follow through, and being transparent. And with all of that being said, this will help your youth feel like they have that additional support, someone that they can lean on to, someone that they can talk to when they're going through this challenging time with the foster care system. So thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. What I'm hearing is being treated human, right? Like a human being, right? And I know that there's no intentionality of not doing that. I know that our intentions and when we're in this work is to do that. At the same time, we can get so caught up with, as you shared in the beginning, and I worked for child welfare, so I understand, and I have a respect, especially for that, for the work social workers do, and just overwhelmingness. At the same time, our youth, they're human beings that want to be heard. They want that time, especially within this very vulnerable. And I get it. Some will not show that, right? I had a teenager, so but I had a teenager that navigated the system before she became a teenager, and then what transpired was something that my wife and I had to, um, support and do the best we could to be there for her. So with that, Nancy, what advice would you give service provider to help children and families in care feel more empowered and valued?
Yeah, I really like the answers that Ali gave and that you just mentioned. For me it was that having your child being removed from your care, hearing him cry or hearing them cry, like just a heartbreak and traumatic as it is, and I don't know, for me it was traumatic just because, I a little bit of background, I'm also a youth with lived experience, and I also been in the foster care system. So like for me, like sharing, my perspective, and my um just my story, it's just I don't know, I guess it gets me emotional, and it gets me just wanting just to use my voice more, and I feel like as a parent, you know, um going through that traumatic event and you know um doing everything, to, like I said before, just to get them back, and everything the social workers require you to do, the courts require you to do, and um things that you need to improve on. I remember at some point I wanted to do things my way, and I wanted to do things how I thought that I should do them, and they didn't work out. And I just I remember just thinking like okay, so if it's not working, and I'm getting like in trouble, and I'm getting like write-ups, and I'm getting all this stuff, like what can I do? I just felt like I give up, I gave up, and I just let things flow, and I basically just participated and just took a different point of view, took a different outlet of what I could do, instead. So once I let go and reason to my support system. Hold on, buddy. Reason to my support system, and hold on, buddy. And just talk to them, and use them. Was really just just really helped me a lot. And yeah. One thing that I feel like I say to other parents, that go through this is everything is maybe seem hard, at that time, really recent, but just don't give up. Your kids are your kids, and they're most important. To me, and to everyone who has kids. Like I feel like um just having that, and just creating that bond, I guess, with your child as well. I feel like it's just everything just aligns. And yeah, I'm just grateful that I get to share just a little bit of what um what I went through, and reunifying with my son, having overnight visits and all the from unsupervised to supervised, from back, like it was just a lot, and to now having him full time here, and being working, and just having a place on my own, and having reliable transportation, like everything just falls through. I feel like I had um just let the program and let just everything fall into place. I believe in my higher power that he has done things for a reason, and continues to do things for a reason. So that's just what continues to happen in my life. So thank you.
No, thank you. And thank your little buddy that just jumped in there, or your son, should I say. We have a guest, and so he's welcome as well. So no, that's wonderful. Wonderful advice. Absolutely. And I hear you sharing about, giving the parents the opportunity to express themselves, to be able to find that place. And I would add on to that, or should I say, I would add in my little perspective on that piece with sharing. Let's have some grace. Let's have some patience, right? We're dealing, when we're working with families, they're in the most traumatic moments. And I share a lot with whomever I'm speaking to. Is for a parent, a day without your child is like 1,000 years. Not to mention you feel like a failure, and you feel like, and especially not especially, but through a father's perspective, I failed to protect, I failed to do these different things. And so, these are all things that are coming in. And so the advice I would give is, grace, and also, allow the families to have that moment, and, be open and teachable to hear what's coming out. So that way, we're able to receive it and move forward. What I found in my work is we're not trying to fix anyone. We're there to guide them, right? Guide, the parents or the youth, for them to find their strength once again to stand. Because at the end of the day, for reunification, we want them to go off and stand strong and never have to come back into the systems again, right? And so that's going to take guidance rather than telling them what to do. But not to mention that there is some teaching moments as well. So with that, I
Something
yeah,
else real quick.
sure, yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I feel like for me, one of the biggest things that was one of my fears was having, DSS knocking on your door and saying like they have a concern, or you know um still having that thought to this day of like having some, okay buddy, give me a second, of having just somebody just report you, and they can make anonymous tips, and it's just like, if you don't know who they are, like I don't know, I just feel like that's just one of my biggest fears still, having him out of my care or just not being with him. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Ali, do you want to share anything extra?
I mean, the only thing that I would add from a lived expertise point of view is that removal process where CPS and the police come and knock on your door, that was something that still sticks to me till this day. So yeah, I just want to agree with what Nancy has to share. It is super scary, especially coming from a foster youth, seeing all of that happen, your parent being taken away by police officers, and only having like a limited amount of time to pack your things. That right there was so traumatic. So I guess it's just acknowledging your youth, the youth you're serving. It can be fearful, but understand that you're serving youth that are currently going through that complexities of the foster care system. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. No, that's important. Trauma, for those with lived experience, we know it doesn't go away, right? If anything, when we come into this field, we relive our trauma every day we come to work, right? And so, when we talk about valuing, it's it's not just simply saying everything's going to be okay. It's really genuinely being present when we are having conversations. And I'm a practitioner of it as well, working with other families. I don't assume, oh well, because they know I'm a father with lived experience. No, I intentionally become genuine right there in front of both parents, or whoever's in front, and really give them the ability to be able to share. And so with that, do we have time for one more question, Elisa?
I believe we do.
Okay.
5 minutes or so?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and share it real quick.
We'd love to hear more. Thank you.
So this is the fourth question, and that is, what is one thing you wish you had known or been told about the child welfare system beginning of your experience? So once again, I would give it over to whomever would like to go first on answering that.
Go ahead and start. For me, one of the things I would have wished to know was, that yes, like even though you do have, CPS, part of your life and, part of your everyday living, like every day, is that they could be helpful. They could help you with a lot of things, and, and I just wish that they could have just told you everything that you could use their resources for. Hold on, buddy. Give me a second, okay? Just a few more minutes. Sorry. Yeah. So
Okay.
I get to, I get to do that. I don't know. I just feel that having just people, and like I said before, just your support system is the biggest one for me, and it still is for me. Having just reaching out, calling someone, and yeah, I just feel like my um like if I would have known what would happen, then like I would have done things differently. I would have done things completely different than what I did. But I can't change the past. I know that for a fact. So I just have to just move on. And so I'm just grateful I got to change it, and I got to just make myself and get to know myself. So thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Well, I totally agree with you. With wanting, it'd be good to know things up front, especially how this works, right? How what's going to be happening to the best of their ability. Of course, you can't give a direct, but enough to be able to help, and I get that. And so I'm totally with you on that. And the thing that I share with you as well is that now we get to do that, right? I call it my golden rule. I get to give to someone else what I would have liked for me and my family. And so with that, Ali.
Yes, thank you. This is a really important question on my behalf. So at the beginning of my experience with the child welfare system, when I entered the foster care system, everything changed so quickly from where I lived, who I lived with, the people that were involved in my life. And for me personally, it's overwhelming in the aspect of being a former foster youth. So looking back, I wish I had someone to tell me that it's okay to ask questions and to seek that understanding. When I first entered the system, I didn't realize that I had the right to ask questions. People were asking me the questions, but I didn't feel comfortable to ask those questions or to advocate for myself. So decisions were being made about me, but I wasn't always included in that conversation. There were meetings around me, my CFT meetings. Adults were discussing my future, where I would live, and what support services were going to be given to me and to my siblings. But no one was asking how I felt or if I even understood what was going on. For example, I'm thinking about when I went through kinship care, I had a younger sibling that was taken away from us into a different placement. And that sibling placement changes, that was traumatic itself. So, with that being said, at times I felt like my own story was being written without having my voice in it. And I want to emphasize this. It felt like I was just expected to adjust. But the truth is, foster youth deserve to be informed about what is happening to them. I feel like no matter the age, they deserve to be included in those conversations about their lives. And most importantly, they deserve to be heard. That's why I encourage every foster youth to advocate for themselves. If something is unclear, ask what's going on. If a decision is being made, speak up. If something doesn't feel right, say something. It's not always easy, especially when you're young and you feel like there's no one there that is listening. But as a foster youth, our voices do matter. So if I can go back and tell my younger self one thing at the start of my foster care journey, it would be that my questions are valid, my voice is important, and I have the right to seek that understanding and be a part of those decisions that are shaping my future and my time in the foster care system. So, to anyone currently supporting youth, navigating the child welfare system, I want you to know that we are not just a case file. They are a person with thoughts, and I'm going to repeat what Roger had shared with us about that, and that our future is deserved to be shaped with our input placed into those huge decisions. So thank you.
Wow, Allie, Nancy, what a way to end. What a way to end. Thank you both for just your wonderful voices, very powerful voices. I'm sure you can see on the screen all these emojis that are just going up in appreciation to you both. And I personally want to thank you both for allowing me to share this space with you both. Well, with everything that you shared, it's something that is important to hear. And I would throw out there to all of our agencies, all who are there, community-based, communities, everyone. Let's not take this and just say, oh, wow, that was just a wonderful, wonderful time to sit back and hear these individuals with lived experience, their voices and their expertise. Let's take it upon ourselves to take it back with us to our agencies and to look at what we're doing, what we're not doing, and how we can move forward in really bringing these voices to life. And so that's kind of, I would say, like a challenge, especially from us who have lived with this lived experience, this expertise that we get to carry and give out. We want to know that when we share, that there's change happening. And so I know it doesn't happen overnight, but I think that if we really are intentional, we can take this with us even throughout this day and take the voices and just, allow them to guide us in what we're doing and be intentional to bring that lived experience to the table, right? And everyone else was important, right? We're not going to exclude anyone. Tribal representation is very important, right? And of course, community is very important. And so with that, I want to thank you all for giving me the privilege of being able to moderate this. And so I am going to turn it back over to Alyssa. Thank you all.
Ooh, I care about each of you so deeply, and hearing your stories today has been deeply moving for me. Gotta say thank you. Roger, Allie, and Nancy, thank you for sharing these profound reflections. I personally feel deeply moved by your shares, and I know I'm not alone in this room. We appreciate your contributions to our tribal and community engagement work group this year and your willingness to share your lived experience with us here. Your contributions help strengthen our practices and foster more authentic connections with our clients and communities. Thanks again.
Yes, thank you, Elisa, and to Ali, Roger, and Nancy, thank you all so much for sharing your stories. I also want to really highlight, I don't think we've shared this yet, is that the Community and Tribal Engagement Work Group that was part of our convening planning team was co-chaired by Ali and Roger. And so that felt really important in the planning process. Turn it over to the experts. We are not the experts. I am not, right? Turn it over to the experts and let them do what they do best. So thank you all. And I just feel like, oh, it's such a representation of what can happen when you just let go. Thank you. Ooh. I will go to our overview and flow for the rest of our day. So thank you, everyone. Just a reminder, our AM workshop sessions will start at 11:10. And so that's pretty shortly. You'll go to the workshops and return to the Whova dashboard via your open browser. Go to agenda, then sessions on the left column. Scroll through the sessions and click on the morning workshop you're most interested in joining. We'll then have a lunch break, lunch and stretch break, and your PM workshop session will start at 12:45. So you'll go into that session, the Whova dashboard, and same kind of thing via that browser, click agenda and session on the left column. Scroll through the sessions and click on the afternoon workshop you're most interested in joining. And then after the workshop, please return to this main session at 1:50 p.m. So in essence, we won't see you all in the main session until 1:50 p.m. So please enjoy your morning and afternoon workshops and your lunch. And then we'll come back for our closing reminders and setup for day 2. So thanks, everyone. While that's getting going for you, I hope everybody had a really wonderful workshop. I know the 2 I was in were really engaging, really interesting, and I feel like I learned a lot. So hopefully that was the experience for others as well. Elisa, I think in the interest of time, I'll just get us started. And
sounds good. I'm out here floating around somewhere.
Well, good. I'm glad we can hear your voice. Well, welcome back, folks. As I said, I hope you all had a wonderful workshop today. Just know that all the workshops were recorded and those recordings will be sent out by next week. All right, Elisa, I'll pass to you.
Very good. Okay, so we're going to cover tomorrow's agenda. So tomorrow we're going to start with a welcome from our convening planning partners, followed by a keynote presentation from Dr. Bob Sege and Alyssa Burke on the Healthy Outcomes from Positive Experiences Framework, otherwise known as HOPE. Then we'll move into our county CPP time for getting started, moving from head to heart, or whatever activities your individual counties have planned. After lunch break, we'll reconvene in the main session for peer sharing. Then we'll move back to our CPP team time for action planning. And to close, we'll come back to the main session for more peer sharing, and closing appreciations. So as we wrap up this incredible day, I want to highlight some of the upcoming prevention-focused events that are happening across the state. We're excited to say there's a large variety of webinars and opportunities to keep the momentum going and deepen your engagement on prevention work. So you could see there are a number of webinars. Strategies TA it has just opened up registration for our 3rd webinar in our Taking a More Holistic Approach to Community Pathways series. This is titled Building Collective Capacities for Community-Led Change. Caltrain has a number of offerings coming up this spring on their site as well. And for CAP Month, the Child Abuse Prevention Center and the Office of Child Abuse Prevention have come together to plan a lot of activities for the month of April, which includes a webinar series over 5 weeks on Wednesday mornings. That's a live webinar series that you can attend, and the registration flyers are coming soon. Through the Office of the Surgeon General, we have a webinar coming up called Strong Start and Beyond, Partnering for Progress, and they have 3 different webinars in that series, and you can register here on the link that's provided. Child and Family Policy Institute of California has an opportunity to participate on their FFPS advisory committee, and highly recommend. It's a committee. I'm in one of the subgroups, and it's a great way to learn about what's happening across the state around community pathways, as well as get to know your colleagues. And then lastly, we have Kids and Families Together, which is a parent support group, which runs Mondays 3:30 to 5, Thursdays 4 to 5 in Spanish. And the contact there is Janelle Noonkester, and her email is highlighted on the link in the slide.
And all of those links were just dropped in the Whova chat as well, so you should be able to access them.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Well, I have the exciting opportunity to share that the planning team has come forward with dates for 2026. So it's hard to think about next year already, but our hope is to help folks save the date. And so we intend that our 2026 convening will be March 18th and 19th. And we will share more information soon. Next slide. All right, so thank you all for attending this first day of the 2025 Statewide Collaborative Prevention Convening. This has been a wonderful day, and we would love to know more about what your experience was like today. That helps us to plan better for next year, organize things. So really, really want this to be led by the community here. So please take a minute. The link to the evaluation survey is going to be going in the chat as well shortly. And, I just want to send one thing before we wrap up. I want to send a great big thank you to the strategies, tech, and production team behind the scenes today who've worked so incredibly hard to make this event possible. You are truly all rare gems and greatly, greatly appreciated. So thank you all. Again, we will see you tomorrow, and please feel free to reach out if you need anything, and have a good evening.
Take care, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye.